It's Finish Strong Friday, everybody. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Trey Griggs here, Beta Consulting Group, and you are here for another episode of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership. And today is Finish Strong Friday, everybody. So make sure whatever you're doing, you're finishing strong. And hey, if you like the t-shirt, go pick one up at our swag store. Go to shop.betaconsultinggroup.com. And because it is September, everybody, and because my Kansas City Chiefs, my beloved Kansas City Chiefs, dominate the month of September, the coupon code this month is Go Chiefs. I know for some of you Bills fans out there, it's going to be rough, but you get 25% off. So go to the store, pick up a t-shirt, a hat, anything like that, and make sure you use coupon code Go Chiefs to get 25% off. We'd appreciate it. Take a picture and a video and send it to us when you get your swag. We'd love to see that and support that on what we're doing. Speaking of which, my good friend Melissa Guzman, she's got a Finish Strong Friday shirt. She posted about it. We appreciate her and everybody else supporting what we're doing here at Beta Consulting Group. We're here to form a community, everybody, of people that are performing and pursuing excellence every day. When you see this shirt, when you see this, anything else, remember to be excellent. That's what we're all about. So be a part of our community. We would love that. Also, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor who make this possible, TAFS, the good guys in Freight Factory. And they're helping keeping those carriers on the road, the owner-operators with cash flow resources, discounts on fuel, tires, and all kinds of other things that they need to keep moving out there. And by the way, if you're behind the wheel of a truck or if you're a part of a trucking company, thank you so much for what you're doing. It is Driver Appreciation Month, but here on Standing Out, it is Driver Appreciation Day. Every day, we appreciate what you're doing. You are the heroes of the supply chain, and we appreciate that so much. And if you would, just check them out at TAFS.com. Let them know that Trey sent you, or make it easy on yourself and simply click on the link that's going to be in the comments today that Ruth is going to put in there. That takes you right to my landing page so you can get started with them and they know that I sent you. And again, we appreciate all the truck drivers and everything that they are doing out there. Well, listen, everybody, it's been a great week of shows again here on Standing Out. I'm so thankful for all the guests that choose to participate and be on the show with us each week. If you didn't catch these shows this week, you can go back and catch them on demand. Either go to my YouTube channel or right here on LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. You can watch it on demand. Had a great conversation with Brian Curie on Monday, Lindsay Graves on Tuesday. She's awesome. Jeff Dickinson, the Bodacious Cowboy, on Wednesday. That was a great conversation. Enjoyed talking to my fellow street crew member, Greg Roberts, on Thursday. And then today we're going to bring John on the show here in just a minute. Super excited about that. But one more reminder, because it's Friday, everybody, we got Word on the Street coming up at noon. We got Ryan Schreiber from Metaphora. He's going to be on the show today. We're talking about training and onboarding. So you can see him, myself, Greg, and the rest of the street crew at noon Central, 1 Eastern today for episode 125, I believe, of The Word on the Street. And we'd appreciate you jumping in, throwing some comments, and checking out what we're going to talk about today with training, onboarding, and some NFL news and all kinds of other stuff as well. Okay, that's enough of an intro. I want to bring our guest on and give him a chance to tell his story and talk about that. Met this guy on LinkedIn as well as his team. I got to tell you, his team absolutely raves about him as a leader. And I'm like, well, I got to get this guy on the show and talk about that. I don't know if he's paying him under the table or what he's doing, but they're talking about how great a leader he is. So we had to get him on the show and chat it up and have a good time. He's from Kansas City. I sure hope he's a Chiefs fan. We're going to find out. So from Heartland Logistics Group, please welcome to the show my friend, John Kuhlmann. John, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good morning, Trey. How's it going?
Okay, question one out of the gate. Are you a Chiefs fan?
Heck yes.
You have to be, right? I mean,
Yep.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So have you been to a game at Arrowhead Stadium?
Not recently, no.
Oh man, you got to do that. I used to work there as a kid, and there's just no better place to watch a football game than from Arrowhead Stadium. So absolutely love that, which is really cool. Okay, all right, John, enough about that. Take a few seconds to tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what's going on over at Heartland Logistics Group.
Perfect. So who am I? So I started my career, cut my teeth at C.H. Robinson. I was there for 8 years. Great company, great learning environment.
Were you in the Kansas City location?
I was in the Kansas City location, and then decided I needed to make a change, career move, do something a little bit different. So I went to a company called AgForce. I was there for 4.5 years. Great company. Pandemic hit, and I felt, I think this is time to strike out on my own and see what cut the safety net and let's see where this thing goes. So we launched the company September of 2020. There were 3 of us. We grew from 3 to 6 people from September through December. Last year, we grew from 6 to 24 people. And this year, we just hired our 40th employee. I think we'll end up doing about $65 million this year in sales.
Wow. So. Congratulations. That's such a cool story. And so I got to jump back and ask you a question. So we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're like 6 months into it, and it had this all conversation of starting had to happen previously. So we're in this pandemic, unknown, future, volatility everywhere. And you said, yep, this is the time. I'm going to go ahead and take a risk and jump out. What was going on there? Talk about that a little bit.
It's something that I've been passionate about. I've always wanted to do it for a long time. I think even more so, the 1 year or 6 month mark, kind of until we made that jump. It's interesting. My wife and I, we've got 4 boys. So we actually had the twins February 26th of 2020, and they came out of the NICU March 11th, March 14th. COVID shut everything down. So it was actually an even bigger jump just from a standpoint of, when we made this decision, we didn't have any financial backing. We didn't have investors. But we said, what, we're both, my business partner, Scott, and I, we're both men of faith. We're like, we've been successful for 15 years. There's no reason that just because we leave a company, we're going to be unsuccessful. And like you, Trey, we're a faith-based organization. So we believe in God. And I was like, he's, treated us right this far. There's no reason he's going to stop. So I was like, let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's go all in. And, we'll figure it out. We'll make it. We'll work 10 times harder than the competition and get to where we are today. So,
well, that story sounds very familiar and I love it. I love to hear that. But you said that you've wanted to do this for years, and then you took what was that time frame when you were thinking about this to when you actually made the jump? And what was that process, that emotional process of getting the courage to say, okay, let's do it. Let's cut the net.
I think the hardest thing with all of it was just figuring out where to start, right? So many people, they go up to the dock and they never actually get on the boat and set sail. So for me, it's like, okay, if not now, then when, right? Because you may never do it. And so I think really it was pretty much, I would say at the start of the pandemic. So around February, March, it's like, okay, I've been thinking about this, let's turn this pipe dream into a reality and let's actually figure out a way to get this going, because I didn't know the first thing about running a freight brokerage. I didn't know the first thing about starting a company. I mean, I've worked for corporate America for 15 years. They took care of everything for me. Right. So, making that decision, I got humbled really quick on like all the small things, all the little things that everybody takes for granted. It's like, yeah, you have to do all these different things. So it was a great learning experience. Would I want to go through it again? Probably not. But, needless to say, it was fun. I mean, I had a mentor and he basically said, if you do this, he's like, you're going to be scared. He goes, from the day you start your company until the day you die, you're going to be scared. He goes, but it's also a lot of fun along the way. And that's what you got to see the silver lining in that.
Yeah. And the truth is, if you had to do it over again, at least, you can, right? I mean, there's some confidence that can be built from that. Like, I did it once. I could probably figure it out again if I had to, but you're right. There's a lot of little things that if somebody had said, hey, John, you're going to have to learn this, or you're going to have to make this decision, or you're going to have to do that, you might not have made the jump, right? Sometimes it's nice not knowing all the stuff you have to do before you jump into something, but certainly the journey is a hard one, but it's an exciting one. And I agree with you. I did door-to-door sales, which is 100% commission as well back in the day. And I can tell you this, I hope I never have to do it again, but I'm certainly glad I did. Certainly glad I did. And I think you probably feel a very similar way about where you guys are at. Like, I don't know if I want to start over again, but you're glad you did. You're really glad you did. And that's cool. That's awesome. So let's back up a little bit, because you talked about having a mentor. I think this is really critical. I don't think people understand the value of really having somebody that they can go to. They can say, I don't know what to do here. I don't know how to fix this. And they know they're not going to be judged, and somebody who is going to invest in them. And a lot of times mentors don't get a lot out of it. I don't know if this person that you're talking to was an investor of yours or if it's just a friend, but a lot of times some of the best mentors are people who just willingly give their time and help somebody out. It sounds like you had that in a mentor. Talk about the value of that.
Well, it was epic. I mean, I had a couple guys that I had networked with, probably 2 years prior. I kind of, at the time, March, April, just said, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. And they said, you should go talk to this guy. So I made the phone call, sat down with him. We had coffee, and come to find out he had built and sold 3 different logistics companies, drive-away logistics, freight brokerage. And there was another one that he did. And I asked him, I said, well, how'd you get your start? And he goes, well, I was really dumb. He goes, I He goes, I did it all on credit cards. I borrowed $30,000 worth of credit cards, which for any of the audience listening, I do not recommend doing that.
No.
But he gave me a lot of pointers along the way. Treat employees fairly, treat them right. You're going to be operating in the freight brokerage space. Make sure you take care of your customers. Make sure you take care of your carriers. And if you do those 3 things well, he goes, you will be successful.
Yeah, and it makes it really simple when you think about it. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, but that really is kind of the simple equation: is you take care of your people, which you're doing, by the way. The people that I've had a chance to speak with at Heartland really rave about the culture, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Take care of your people, take care of your customers, take care of your vendors. That's it'd be hard to fail if you did those things. I mean, you have to work really hard to mess that up if you did those 3 things really well. So I love the fact that you kind of simplify it just to that. Talk a little bit about the culture. You started with your partner. You guys just you got it going, and you started pretty slow. You didn't ramp up right away, but you guys have really kind of accelerated and taken off. You said you're hiring your 60th, or what was the number?
40th. Yeah,
40th. I'm sorry. Okay, so your 40th employee. That's nothing to bat an eye at. That's pretty significant growth, especially in this pandemic period that went through there. How have you been able to build and maintain a really strong culture as a startup, bringing on that number of people and figuring it out, as you said, like trying to figure out how to run this thing?
Well, and one of the other things that I'll just add to that is, for us, when COVID hit, we realized that you didn't need to hire 30 or 40 people in one centralized location, right? So we have employees in 12 different states. We have 33 employees working remote, and then we have 6 today that are in our office here in Kansas City. So when you talk about culture, like, how do you build a culture when people that don't even sit next to you, right? Like, it makes it tough. And like, how do you create that interaction on a daily basis? How do you make sure that people don't feel like they're alienated or left out on an island, right? So I think we do that really well through a number of different ways. One's just the over communication. We hire people that are pretty self-sufficient, and we've been fortunate. A lot of our employees, I would say the average tenure within the transportation industry is 10 or 12 years. So it's, we took a different road than most companies. A lot of companies will try to hire newer talent or newer employees that are fresh to the transportation industry. So you got to do that training and development. We're not quite there yet. We're focused on building out a full-blown training and development program. But until we get there, we've just been hiring people that have experience within the industry. So that's one piece of it. The other thing is from a culture standpoint, we do happy hours I'd like to say every 2 weeks, but it's more like every 3 to 4 weeks, where we basically do an all company happy hour on Fridays. We get everybody together. It's just for 30 minutes, just to shoot the breeze, see how things are going. We do thank you Thursdays. People send out thank you cards to our customers, carriers, vendors.
Oh, I like that.
Whatever else it may be. One of the other things that we do that I really like is on Fridays, we'll share like family pictures, right? Because, I have my family here in Kansas City. We have people in Illinois. They have their families. It's like, how are you doing? How are your kids? How's your husband? How's your wife? Right. So we share family pictures to say, hey, like, this is what my family's doing. Okay. So everybody gets to really feel inclusive and feel a part of that, and you don't feel left out.
Yeah, and it's certainly easier to build this when that's the start of your company. I think it's harder for companies maybe that didn't start remotely to figure some of these things out. But those tips that you just gave, that's gold. And I'm going to steal some of those. The Thank You Thursdays is awesome. We do happy hour on Thursdays, although sometimes we botch it just because of schedules, but we try to make that happen. We don't talk any business, which I'm the worst at that because I'm always thinking business, but we try not to talk about any business. And that's been really beneficial for us. And I like the pictures, the family Fridays. That's a really cool thing as well, just to, get to know people when it's hard to get to know people. They're not next to you. You can't just go out to dinner, have them for a barbecue or things like that. It's very limited. This gives you a chance to get to know them. I think these are some really critical things you guys are doing. But the one I want to focus on is, you said you guys over communicate. Like, how would you explain it to somebody, what that actually means? How do you guys over communicate? What does that look like?
So one of the things for us is, being segmented or segregated in different offices and locations, it's really hard sometimes. You can't walk over to somebody's desk and say, hey, did you get that email, or did you get that message from somebody? So, we internally, we have a set of rules. And basically, if you send me an email, Trey, like, the expectation should be to acknowledge it within 5 minutes. A simple yes or no, I got it, respond from there. And then it may be a problem or a question. You may say, hey, I need great quotes on 3 loads. We've got an issue on this. And like the goal or the internal expectation is we need to try to resolve it in 15 minutes, depending on the type of situation that it may be. But, we owe that not only to our customers, but to our carriers as well. And even internally, like we're trying to work. I got people in different locations. They're trying to do their jobs. So if I take an hour, which I am guilty of, I'll fully admit, fall on the sword, but we do our best to try to communicate as quickly and as effectively as possible.
Yeah, and and the thing about working remote is when you have an issue and you send an email or maybe a text communication or something like that, and you don't hear anything back at all, even an acknowledgement, it gets frustrating, and there's just so much uncertainty around that. What do I do? Do I make a decision? Do I wait? Are we going to get this fixed? I need information. There's just so much uncertainty to that. So the remote world is different, but it's certainly possible to function at a high level. And I think having those standards of communication, of 5 minutes or less on an acknowledgement of an email, try to resolve it in 15. When you hold that standard, then it permeates throughout the organization and to your customers and your vendors as well. And that's really important in terms of building a good culture. I'm a firm believer that culture is really communication. It's really built on communication, and how we're communicating with one another. And so I think that's great that you guys are doing that. By the way, shout out to Matt Leffler, who's also on his way to having twins as well. His wife has twins. So he's got 2 kids and decided to go in for the double as well. So he's got that coming down the pipeline in a little bit. And for everybody watching the show, make sure you catch Matt's show after Word on the Street. He's at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern for the Armchair Attorney today with, who's his guest today? Jennifer Carpus Romaine, I believe, is the guest. So great guy. And he's going to have twins soon as well. John, talk to me about because you had twins in March of 2020 and then you started a company. Your wife must be a saint. Talk about the partnership between you two to make that type of leap after your family goes from 4 to 6 like that.
It's definitely a big leap. So, and I can remember the day that I found out that I had twins. I walked back into the office at Ag Force and my old boss says, "You need a beer." And so we went and had a beer for a couple hours and he helped me through that. But yeah, once we got to the point where we had the twins, it was chaotic for everybody, right? COVID just hit, everything started to shut down. And I'm like, well, you're at home with the 4 kids. I have the ability to work from home if I need to. We're trying to figure out if we're, doing this whole Heartland thing or not. So, just let me know what you need. And she's been great. And, we have family in town here, which really helps a lot. So Matt, I will say, if you have family close by, lean on your family, lean on your friends. Just to at least get through the first 3 or 4 months, and then it should be a little bit easier. I don't know what his age gap is on his kids, but
they're pretty young. Yeah, they're pretty young.
Yeah. So we had 4 under 4, so that was a.
I don't think his are that young. I think they might be a little bit older than that, but it's. I think they might be school age, some of them. But yeah, it's pretty wild. And just to think about how crazy that is, that you guys have a huge family situation, and then now you're like, well, let's go and just start this thing on our own. It's amazing the risk tolerance that you and your wife have to say, yep, let's do it. Especially when you're not you haven't been an entrepreneur before this. This is your first one. To me, that's really remarkable and speaks volumes to that. Talk a little bit about the communication that you guys had, but also the faith component to it. You mentioned that earlier. It's something I love to talk about as well. Just honoring God and seeing Him work in ways that you can't explain, that are just incredible. How He promised to provide all those things. Talk a little bit about the conversations you guys had and how faith really played a part in that.
Yeah. So, when we go to church, I'd love to say we go every Sunday. I'd be lying to you. We try to make it every weekend. We do our best. Again, we've got 4 kids and some mornings are pretty hectic. No excuse. No excuse. It's just the reality, right? But
we're going to watch church today, everybody. We're just going to throw it on TV.
We've watched plenty of church. So no, we sat down, we had the conversation. And I think for me and my wife, it was pretty easy. My business partner, Scott, him on the other hand, his wife, and they've got 3 kids. So, it's interesting that you say that because, one of the things that keeps us grounded is at the end of the day, you can have yourself or your company, or I've got these 1, 2, or 3 employees that are doing this, but, everybody's like, well, how do you sleep at night? How do you deal with the stress? Right. And it's I have over 80 kids that I'm responsible for, plus employees, plus their spouses. So look at it from that perspective. And when we decided to start the company, it's there's no safety net, right? We have to make this work. We have to work harder than the competition. So, faith does play a huge component, right? You're up late, you get up early, you're grinding. We were making sales calls. There was 3 of us. We were booking loads. We were calling customers, calling carriers, doing everything that we could to deliver the best value and the best experience that we possibly can. Because, I mean, the industry's fierce, and right, wrong, or indifferent, that time period, 2020, rates were going up. It was definitely a difficult landscape. Trucks weren't easy to come by. It was all purely relationship based, and that's how we got our start. So
yeah, and I think that's important to understand too. Like, when we talk about faith and how it interacts with business, it definitely does not remove the work component. There is a component there that you need to work really hard. It's a biblical principle. To whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. It's in Colossians 3. Like, it's important that you work really, really hard, but it's also important that that you're not alone. That God is going to provide for you. And when you think about, you got 80 kids and employees to provide for, but at the end of the day, who's really providing? And we know who that is. And that's where you can sleep at night. That's where you can go, I'm not sure how we're going to get through this month, or I'm not sure how payroll is going to happen this month, but it's going to happen. We're going to keep working. We're going to take the next step. We're going to try to be wise and smart. We're going to see how God comes through. And those are the stories that I think are the kind of stories that I love to hear, because they're inspiring and they're encouraging to keep going, because it's not always roses and sunshine. Sometimes it gets really, really difficult. I'm sure you've experienced all of that. And you've got those stories to share as well, which is amazing.
Yeah. And so one of the other things that I would add real quick is, like, when we started the company, we said, we're going to donate 1% of all of our profits to charitable organizations. So that first year, we had 6 employees. So we donated to essentially 6 charities. And, like, every time we have an employee that comes on, they get to pick a charity of their choosing. Since we're not all
that's
here,
cool. Yeah, I love that.
Since we're not all here in Kansas City, we've got charities all across the United States. It's one of the things that we're going to add to our webpage, is, like, we want to bring more awareness and more support to those organizations. We have people in Memphis and Colorado and Illinois and Minnesota and South Dakota. And it's like, there's local charities that they're passionate about. So let's make sure that we are investing back into those communities for the people that we've hired from.
That's a really great idea too. And of course, that's a culture builder as well. Like, it shows that you guys have a value of generosity and giving back, and you're allowing your employees to participate in a meaningful way. You're not picking the charity and making them jump into it. You're letting them pick the charity. I love that too. I think that's so amazing. We do that now with the Tough Mudders that we do. I don't know if you've seen us. We talk about the Tough Mudders that we do. We got one coming up here at the end of October down in Dallas. I used to pick the charity for the Tough Mudder, and everybody that participated was like, well, that doesn't really mean that much to me. Like, I know it's a good charity and it's important, but that doesn't really mean much to me. So this time, every participant is picking a charity. We're going to start marketing that here next week, because we're about a month away. And it changes the game whenever people get to participate and get to pick their own charity. And Melissa Wyndon, shout out to Melissa. Thanks for watching the show. She says that John and Megan are great business owners and people. So again, you got the cheerleaders on your side. You're doing some things really well. Clearly, you're growing. Which means that customers are trusting you and all that. So it's neat to see that, John, and congratulations on all your success, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. So we've got a segment that we do. We got a couple segments we're going to throw your way. All right. So the first segment that we do every day is we talk about the national day, whatever day it is. So every day is a national day. I don't know if you know what today is.
I don't.
Okay. So today, the national day is National Punctuation Day. Some of these are silly. Some are actually really meaningful. Like National Chocolate Shake Day was meaningful to me, but National Punctuation Day. Are you a big stickler on punctuation, John?
Probably not as much as I should be. We work in transportation. Everybody tries to find an abbreviation for everything.
Right.
So
Right. Let's shorthand this bad boy.
Yep.
Yeah. See, I was a sports editor in college, and I literally cannot read something without finding the problems. It's a curse. Like, it's a blessing and a curse. And so I actually love National Punctuation Day, because when somebody uses a colon incorrectly, like, it irks me a little bit, but I'm kind of excited I know it. But then when I write, I think about it all the time. Like, I'm like, punctuation is a big thing. And what's your favorite punctuation mark? What do you use the most often outside of a period?
I would definitely say an exclamation point. So
exclamation point. There's just something about that. It just kind of adds a little. Are you a 1 exclamation point guy, or a 2, or more than 2?
I'm definitely a 1, but then I'll look up and I'll draft 4 or 5 sentences together, and I've used an exclamation on like 4 in a row. And I'm like, okay, go back and fix them.
Right. If everything's an exclamation point, then nothing's an exclamation point.
Exactly.
That's kind of the way it works. Yeah. And Morgan on our team, she uses like 4 or 5 exclamation points on everything. So, and we like to point it out and notice. That's right. That's right. Morgan uses like 5 all the time. That's right. So we get a lot of those. I think the most underutilized exclamation point is probably the semicolon. I don't think the people use that too much. We get a lot of commas, we get a lot of apostrophes, we get some dashes, we get a lot of slashes now, but the semicolon is not used too much to join two like statements. So, if you're out there today and you're writing, maybe use a semicolon today. See how that works. All right, John, next one is this. We have the random question of the day. I love this. I have no idea what the question is. It could be a funny question. It could be a serious question. It might be a good question. It could be terrible. I don't know what it is. Our executive producer, Ruth, gets to pick this out every day. So let's see what she picked. The random question of the day is, what is something that is really popular now, but in 5 years, everyone will look back on and be embarrassed by it? Okay. I'm pretty sure my logo might be it. I don't know. It's got a little lifespan right now, and people might look back and be like, "What were you thinking? That was stupid."
Yeah,
I don't know. How about you? What do you think is and maybe really popular? I give myself too much credit. It's probably not that popular. But what's something really popular that you think would be, silly in 5 years?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Thanks, Ruth, for picking an easy one for us today.
Yeah, like what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? That would have been so much easier.
Yeah.
So now here we got to figure something out. She says TikTok dances, and I would agree with that. I think all the men out there who've been doing TikTok dances might be embarrassed in 5 years looking back. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a possibility.
I'll go with that.
Yeah, we're gonna roll with that. That's a good one, Ruth. There's probably some others as well, some pop culture things that are pretty crazy. But yeah, that was a tough question. See, again, sometimes the questions are great. They cause conversation. Sometimes, not so great. So that's how it works. All right, we're going to transition out of that question. So let's finish with this. We're getting close towards the end of the show. I want to ask a little bit about where you're headed with Heartland. What's the vision? What are you guys working towards? What are we going to see in 2023 at Heartland Logistics Group?
Sure. So I think for us, I get asked this question a lot. How big do you want the company to be? Do you have an exit strategy? What does that look like? And I could tell everybody, I want this to be a long-term solution for us. I want this to be a long-term solution for our clients, for our employees. They say, well, how big do you want to be? And my answer, and it took me 2 or 3 months to finally come to this, was I want to be as big as we need to be to support our clients. So we've been on this controlled growth path for the last 2 years. I know there's a lot of companies that are out there seeing how much talent they can hire in the industry and how quickly. I think that's great. That's their strategy, not knocking it. But for us, it's like we want that sustained growth. If we're truly intentional about maintaining and preserving our culture, we need to make sure that we are growing the correct way. So for us, I would say over the next 2 to 3 years, the brokerage business will continue to grow. And we've got some other opportunities out there on the horizon. We've talked about 4PL solutions. We've talked about some learning and development things. We'll just kind of see where it goes from there. I think at the end of the day, we know that the standard set within the industry can always be raised, right? For what is the expectation? What is a good broker? Hopefully that we become that beacon that, helps represent that along with several other really good companies. So I think that's really for us is just resetting that standard each day to say, if you guys want to compete in the industry, this is what a good broker should look like.
Is there ever a temptation though, when you see the hyper growth companies that are growing really fast, do you ever feel like you're falling behind? Is there ever that feeling, or are you pretty steady and sure about this is how we want to grow?
No, I don't feel like we're falling behind because I know that we're doing the right thing. And I think you have to have a pulse on the organization, the customers, the carriers. What are they saying, right? Because if we're consistently growing and we're getting positive feedback every single day, well, then we don't need to, keep up with the Joneses, right? We can do what we're doing and we'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think that's so important to know who you are, have that identity, and know exactly how you want to run. I feel the same way at Beta. Are we a hyper growth marketing company? No, we're not. I want to make sure that the clients we have, we serve really well, and that we set the really good foundation, and that we grow in an appropriate manner for what I'm comfortable with. Other companies are different. People are different. I think you have to know who you are and what you're going to really excel at, and then have conviction about that. To when you do see companies maybe that are doing things differently or being successful in different ways, you're not swayed by that. And it sounds like you've got that footing. And I think that's really important. I'm sure your team, appreciates that
Yep.
where you guys want to go, and that you're steady about that, and not, moving to the whims of what's happening in culture, what's happening with other companies, because you got to be true to who you are. I say that all the time. That's so important. You got to be true to who you are. John, hey, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It's been great having you. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've had a good time, and you'll come back and see us again real soon.
I have. Thank you, Trey. Much appreciated.
Awesome. And everybody else that's out there, make sure you come back on Monday. We've got some great shows next week, but most importantly, in 1 hour from right now, Word on the Street, episode 125, with my good friend Ryan Schreiber, we're going to be talking about training and onboarding. It's going to be a great show with the street crew. You won't want to miss it. And everybody else out there, make sure you finish strong Friday. Have a great end of your week. And that steak tonight on the grill is going to taste a lot sweeter if you do so. Everybody have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you real soon. Thanks, John. Talk to you later.
Thank you. See ya.